worked at a store that was very close to my house, so I walked home every day. One day I was leaving work, and it was starting to get dark. When I left, there was an employee fixing the electrical box of the store that my friend works. I glanced at him, not thinking of anything of it, and waved to my friend. She smiled through the glass door, and I continued on my way. It was just another normal day. When I was exactly in the middle of a park, I glanced quickly over my shoulder because I'm an anxious person, and saw the electrician who I just saw not even a second ago, walking behind me. When I looked back again, his eyes were fixed on me, and he had no expression on his face. All the alarm bells were going off in my head, so I started walking at a faster pace, more out of paranoia than actual fear. So I looked again, this time more slowly, and I noticed that his steps increased in speed just like mine. His expression had also changed to anger and impatience, like a hunter frustrated because the prey ran away too fast. I think, deep down, our survival instinct knows when someone wants to do something bad to us just by looking at them. I hadn't started running yet, but the park, which was actually small, suddenly got very big. I don't know if when I looked back a third time my fearful expression gave me away, but instead of walking, he almost ran and walked at the same time. His strides became so long that it was awkward to look at, so I ran. I had seen this 1,000 times on the news. The park was empty, it was just me and him. I knew what he wanted to do. I had my phone in my hand, but the adrenaline was telling me to keep running and running. I ran the light and crossed the street, still not daring to look back. Maybe he was right behind me. What would I do? I thought after arriving at the abandoned stores, he would have given up, so I looked back one last time, and there he was, still not running, walking super fast in a weird way. The adrenaline made me run even faster, and when I looked back again after a while, he had suddenly stopped. The guy just stood there, his angry expression also fading away. His face looked blank. It was like he was staring into nothing, but his eyes were fixed on me. At this point, I was already approaching the gas station, and he was just a small silhouette that didn't move. My heart was still racing, and my hand was shaking so badly I couldn't type the password to my cell phone. I kept walking and looking back every second. He didn't move an inch. I started to get paranoid, thinking that maybe he really was just an employee, that maybe I was just imagining things, that he wasn't really following me. It's like our brains start to justify the situation so that you stop suffering. When I was already at the end of the gas station and the adrenaline was slowly decreasing, my boss called me and asked if I had arrived home yet. I said no. He said that my friend next door was worried about me because there was a crazy man pretending he had tools in his hand and pretending he was fixing the power box. She was too scared to tell him to stop and just watched him from a weird perspective as he was mimicking. But then I passed by. He turned and followed me as if he was literally waiting for me. My friend was so scared that she tried to record the man in case something happened and was ready to call the police. After that episode, I changed routes I did for work and even started to use a bike. Last year in 2021, the Sunday after Thanksgiving, I was sleeping by my girlfriend in her apartment. It was probably around 3 or 4 a.m. I got up to use the bathroom. Kinda had a hard time going back to sleep. So maybe 5 minutes or so after getting back into bed, I was laying on my back with my head facing left towards the wall. I had my left arm raised over my head, hanging off the edge of the bed. My girlfriend was just sleeping with her back facing me, and my right arm was on my stomach. It was dead silent. My girlfriend has a little loud dog who barks at anyone that walks by the front door. I didn't hear any footsteps, no voices, or form of movement. All of a sudden, I feel someone grabbing my left hand that's hanging off the bed. At first, I thought it was my girlfriend, so I didn't think much of it, until I realized that my left hand is on the opposite side. I opened my eyes, but I could only see from my right eye because my left eye was blocked by my arm. Without turning my head, I saw a man through a mirror on the wall. His face was painted white, pasty white. He had shoulder-length hair that was curly, and a light, dirty brown color hair. I could only see what the nightlight in the room illuminated. It was definitely a white man with very strong build body type, and he was holding something in his right hand. It was like a stick with something bushy at the end, and it was hovering above my stomach. Man, I thought someone broke into the apartment or something. I don't know. Still no noise at all, no movement, and the grip of his hand was not hard at all. I was looking at him for a good 10 seconds. I finally worked up the courage to turn my head and get a visual of this man, but he vanished. And when I looked back the other way, the mirror I saw him through, he also vanished. My family and I are from Australia, and back in 2007, we decided to take a month-long holiday to America. We traveled from LA up the west coast and then back down through Nevada. We did this by renting a car and doing the whole vacation, road trip style. One night, we were traveling towards Lompoc and stopped in Santa Barbara for the night to sleep. We drove around a while looking for a decently priced motel that wasn't too bring our own UV light, if you know what I mean. My mom and dad found a place that looked okay and went inside to inquire about the price of a room for the night, while my sister and I stayed in the car and listened to music on our iPods. We were bopping along an album I brought for the day when my sister removed her headphones and said, "Look at Mom. What is she doing?" I looked up out the window and can see into the reception of the motel. I can see my dad talking to the manager and my mom displaying very cold and odd body language. She's usually very friendly with staff everywhere, so this was odd for her. "What's wrong with her?" I said to my sister, as we kept a close eye on them. My mom was standing behind my dad with her arms crossed and looking around the place as if she was on guard or something, as if her hypervigilance senses had kicked in. After some time, my mom and dad got back into the car and discussed what to do about staying for the night. My dad stated that we wouldn't find anywhere else cheaper for the night, and he was hungry and ready for dinner, so we better just stay here. Plus, it was the last room available, so we would have to make a quick decision. To his dismay, my mom disagreed. "I don't like this place. I have a bad feeling," she said. My dad argued on, getting more and more irritated that my mom couldn't explain what she didn't like about the place, until my mom finally snaps and yells at my dad, saying, "We are not staying here." My dad eventually agreed, as he starts the car and backs out of the motel driveway. At this point, my sister and I are looking at each other like, what just happened? But we stayed quiet as my mom seemed on edge. Anyways, we end up finding a place to stay that Mom approved of and bunkered down for the night. In the morning, we were all bustling around the motel room getting ready for the day, when my dad turns on the TV to hear a news story about a shooting at the motel that my mom didn't want to stay at. Turns out about 15 minutes after we left, a couple walked in and booked that last room, and the man that was behind them shot them because they took the last room available. We all turned to look at my mom, who was standing there, wide-eyed, watching in horror. "I told you I had a bad feeling about that place," she said to my dad, who was pretending not to listen.